We are ready to go live, but only 4 minutes late because I'm an idiot. Well, Mark, I appreciate your patience with me trying to lecture you on how to turn your microphone on when it was actually I had my headphones on, but at some point I had actually turned them off with the physical switch. So I'm an idiot, and there it is. So welcome.
There you go.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has. It has.
Yeah, you
I
look
miss
good, by
talking
the
to you.
way. Yeah, you look good, by the way. If you're, it's like your beard is fuller, or you're happier, or more relaxed, or it looks like you want a Charlie or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's because my hair is longer. I don't know.
Yeah, you look good. You look good.
Uh,
What do you? Are you? Did I see you're sipping on a beer?
oh yeah, yeah. A Voodoo Ranger, which won't
Nice.
show up because of the background.
Yeah.
But there we go.
Okay.
You got Voodoo Ranger out in Texas?
I don't think we do, and I think I need to
Really?
work out how to get that. That sounds cool.
Okay. Yeah.
I with all this, with all my food barring, I didn't grab a beer, but I think I will do that in a minute once I let you actually say something. Uh, so, so I'm liking the shirt. You've got dogs, and like it's Hawaiian dog shirt action.
Yeah, it's our dog. We have a pit
Oh,
bull
custom
named
made. I love it.
Tank who showed up. I live in the country. I mean, big time in the country, like 7 acres of land, half a mile from my nearest neighbor. And this starving pit bull showed up 2 years ago.
Oh no.
Uh, and I mean, we adopted, slant rescued him. We've done that to a lot of dogs. And named him Tank. And I've never thought about pit bulls, wanted a pit bull. Uh, he's one of the sweetest dogs I've ever known. Unless you're an unneutered male dog, then he's
Right.
not sweet to you. But he's
Right.
sweet to all humans. All humans, he's very sweet to.
Well, that's cool. Well, that's cool. Well, that's I love the shirt. That's awesome. Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Well. So I know we don't have a lot of time because we're both kind of get to the point type of guys, and we decided we wouldn't do this for hours and bore
Good.
everyone to tears. So
Yep.
I wanted to jump right in. I'm on your website, and of course, the top of mind topic is the Charlie Award and a most people sacrifice and all of that. So was that a surprise? Did you were you of course expecting it, or tell us about the experience and what you went through? Obviously with
Well,
you and Herman, right?
first, before I talk about that, I would say this: we need to promote the Charlie Awards more as
Okay.
a community. And I even sent some ideas to the Charlie Awards team.
Right.
Uh, one of them being maybe we need a Patreon account for the Charlie Awards, and people would donate to it, and they use that money to actually buy ads on Board Game Geek, on Consim World, on ICV2, that lets people be aware of it. Something a minor crusade I've been on is we talk within the industry if we need to bring more people in. I kind of think that that's step two. Step one is we just need to make people aware of our little segment of the hobby.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, I was going to bring in a miniatures game book that I just bought, but I forgot it, so I'm not going to leave to go get it. But it's this awesome looking book from Osprey, where in a post-apocalyptic setting, you go monster hunting with miniatures. And I guarantee if you got four of us together with a case of beer, we would think it's the best game ever. And it's just, it's fun. But what matters about it is what it says the subtitle is a war game by, I forgot the designer's name. It's Michael something. Okay. The point being, if you walked around Gen Con and you ask people what a war game is, most people do know that, but they would say Warhammer 40K,
right,
or they might say Flames of War, or they might say what's the one with Bolt in the name?
Yeah, Bolt
Anyhow,
Action.
yeah, Bolt Action or stuff like that. Those are all great games, and I would consider war games myself.
Oh,
but
sure.
but the problem is just getting people to understand that there's also another segment of the war game industry, and in that segment we have usually hex maps, and we usually have chits and stuff, and just to get people to be aware of us, and then you worry about bringing people into the hobby.
Yeah. So my only issue with the Charlies, and I don't want to turn this into a Charlies just full bore discussion, but my only issue is that Charles Roberts' intent and the original definition was it's all about war games, and that may be RPGs, it may be sci-fi, it may be military history, whatever it is, right? But it was always true war games, and there were strategy war games and all sorts of war games, and that genre sort of stretched and morphed and all the rest of it. But they've now changed that to something softer, or they're calling it, changed definition now to conflict simulations. And now there's this push to make it just historical games, right? That may or may not have conflict in them. And so my beef with it is, it is a small hobby, and we would like to have more people. And I'm all about that. I'm always out, interviewing and promoting war game YouTubers and new designers, and talking to players and coaching players on your games and other companies' games. And so I'm all about, people use this word, make the tent bigger. I'm all about making the tent bigger, but I also want to keep the hobby relatively, I'll call it pure. That's not without, being like a racist dude about it, but I want to keep it pure because I want it to be shooting monsters and blowing up tanks and firing RPGs and, working out how Napoleon could have done it better, right? All that sort of fun stuff. But my concern is that the Charlies have kind of moved in a direction that is I think they're trying to fix it to a certain extent, but I think there's some folks over there that are sort of hell bent on more of a political bent, I guess. Like there was that Votes for Women game was in there. I mean, that's not a war game, right?
No, it's not. No.
There were other games, but anyway. So but my point about all that, and the reason why I brought it up for you is I'm glad that honest to goodness, gorgeous, fabulously playing, easy to get at, attractive game. Because games, if they're not attractive, makes it a lot harder to get people to sit down at the table, right? But I was super thrilled to see that all the war gamers kind of turned up and voted for you and Herman to be successful with that title, and then you've got nominations for other games as well. So the company's gone from old school tactical, we're doing squad-based gaming, to hey, look at us, La Resistance, the magazine, 85, the other paranormal stuff, and sort of pseudo sci-fi stuff that I forget the name of the other game that I have it here somewhere. Why can't I remember the name? Hang on. With the squares for movement. With the
squares, Crowbar.
No, not Crowbar. That was another.
Are you talking about Tiny Battle though?
No, it wasn't Tiny Battle. What was the not Armageddon War? What's the sci? Was that Tiny Battles that did the science? Here we go, science fiction. Night of Man.
Yeah. Yes.
So I mean, all those things are awesome and conflict oriented, and there's kinetic action between two parties, and it's all good. Anyway, so I'm excited for you. I'm glad that things have gone well.
Oh, thanks much. When you and I were growing up, the division was war games versus strategy games. War games had a historical element, strategy games didn't. And all that is okay. What is important, I think, is that we let people know that we exist.
Yep.
And we absolutely, without any type of prejudice, welcome people into the hobby. And by that, I mean,
Of course, and I think that's kind of like a misnomer.
No, what were you
I
going to
keep
say?
seeing- No, I was just going to say, people being thrown around this word gatekeeper, right?
Yes.
Like we don't want people gatekeeping. Well, I've yet to meet at any con or any store where I've played in Austin,
Yep.
packed or otherwise, war gamers who've gone, hey, piss off, right? Or you can't play. I used to have a saying with my kids, you can't say you can't play. And I believe that for wargaming too. If we want, a guy comes over and stands, shy and all withdrawn, and they're standing there looking at your table. I was like, hey man, want to come and sit down and watch, or you want to know something? And tell what are you doing? Playing a war game. Well, what's a war game? Well, here's what we're doing. It's the Russians and the Germans, or the Brits and whoever. And I think I don't see this gatekeeping commentary that folks keep bringing up. But I think we got to be more. I think we can be more welcoming by having simpler to consume games. And you've led the charge on quality of component and attractiveness and sort of the larger format, which is nice for old eyes. I appreciate that. So I think those sorts of things help a lot.
I think they help. I have seen the gatekeeping, and I would say.
So where'd you see gatekeeping, and what? Give me a specific.
Well, specifically, the last 2 years before COVID,
right.
Flying Pig took a large contingent to Origins. By large, I mean like there were 5 of us, and that included my oldest daughter, Denver, her boyfriend at that time, Galen, and a good friend of theirs, Brett, and also Eddie Carlson. And if I had a nickel for every wargamer that came up and asked Denver, you actually play these things?
Really?
Yep. No, I can't play them because I'm a girl.
Yeah, which is just kind of stupid to me.
It's absolutely idiotic, but it exists.
So do you think it's because she was a young, attractive girl and they just couldn't get over it? Right?
Yes.
That's so immature. I think that's immature advice.
Immaturity. I could tell you stories about having my daughters at the booth and the guys can't look at the game because they're looking at their chest. And it's like, dude, go to Pornhub, have fun. But you're here to look at war games and treat this person like a human. So I see the gatekeeping.
So guilty as charged. When I go to conferences, all of the exhibition areas that have the most attractive women.
Oh, of course.
I'm gonna go and check those out. And
of course,
what are you selling, right? Eye candy attracts people to the table. So the good news is you got people to the table. The bad news is they ask stupid questions and misbehaved, which is a shame, right?
Yes. No, you summed it up right there. Yeah. I mean, I used to, before I was into the hobby, I mean, back in like 97 to 2002, I was a freelance writer. That's what I did all the time, and especially in the electronic entertainment industry. So I went to E3 all the time, and every one of those booths have beautiful women. There's nothing wrong with being beautiful. I would imagine it's fun being beautiful or handsome. I've never known, but the point is that I didn't go up. I still treat them like a human being.
Of course, right. We used to stack our booths. We would make, obviously, the marketing team, make sure all the ladies were dressed not in a slutty manner, but we had a uniform.
Not inappropriately, just a nice business attire.
Yeah, we had uniforms. We had polos and all that sort of stuff. But we would stack the booth, and we made sure that everyone knew that product, right? And that's the key. Is if you're stacking the booth with I'll call just literally just eye candy, and they're really only there to get you to come in, and I always ask a question. Well, tell me about your product. And if they turn and go, "Oh, you need to talk to Bill," I'm like, "Okay, so you're the hook, right?"
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's fine too. I get it, but but I know that Denver plays, right? So, and I know that
Oh, she knew how to play every single game.
yeah,
Every single game we
right,
owned, she could have demoed. And the same thing like with Galen and Brett, who looked very much like, I don't know, millennials
right,
types,
right,
cool
right,
dudes and
right,
whatnot. Not like your typical, not like you and me, right?
right,
They
right,
knew the games inside and out. They practiced them. They learned them ahead of, and they enjoyed them. That was the thing. It wasn't
right.
like this was a chore. I mean, those 2 years are two of my favorite years we went to Origins because we would demo all day. We had enough people there. We could actually go around and walk around the hall and stuff. And then at night we'd
Right.
play games, till it was an insanely late hour and get up and do it again. So yeah, I think that there is some gatekeeping. And I think some of it comes from, and this is going to be really odd, I think some of it comes from, call me nuts, shame. I think that there are some gamers that it's like, well, I'm kind of embarrassed that I'm still playing with toy soldiers on
Right,
cardboard
right,
chits.
right.
So to make it seem adult-like, I'm going to make sure that everyone knows that really what it is I'm learning about history, and this history and stuff is very important.
Right. And so
I could be wrong.
instead we're just having fun, because I think there's all sorts of different types of gamers. There's those that just want to play and goof around and have a good old time, and there's me and Peter Tack. That's how I got onto your games, was World at War and Lock and Load Tactical. He and I played those, and we were screaming and yelling at each other, having a fine old time, and we got groups of people involved in that, and then we would pivot and we'd play. And I'll say this, more serious games, right? We'd say
Sure.
more cerebral, what happened here, and then they'd all be lecturing me on how little of the history I knew. And so, I'd always learn a lot, right? So I think there's all different types of gamers. I think the other thing with gamers, the culture perhaps, is, we're sort of pigeonholed as crusty old white guys, privileged white guys. And I think really it's just, we're kind of surprised when you find those hen's teeth, those few women that play. I know that I had 2 ladies that had their own YouTube channels, and way back before we had all this StreamYard and Zoom and all the rest of it, we would do live YouTube runs where I'd get 50, 60, 100 guys on a live stream watching, because there were 2 girls on, right? I mean,
it's somewhat embarrassing, right? It makes you feel somewhat embarrassed to be a man, right? It's like we're slathering dogs or something. Oh, they got a woman on it.
Yeah,
like I said, go to Pornhub, man.
Right, but I think it's also a sort of a novelty too, right? Because there's so few war gamers, and when you meet them, I don't treat them any differently if they're going to play, right? But if they're doing it to just like I've met a couple of bloggers who purport to be gamers but really aren't. They're female. They speak, but they don't play the games, and you can tell the difference.
Think of all the male bloggers you and I both know, without naming any names.
Yeah, well, of course, I wouldn't do that.
That pretend to be gamers and
punch out the volume.
Yeah, they couldn't name, couldn't have an intelligent conversation about a war game with you.
Right.
So,
couldn't define what a Zoc is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know how we got on that rant, but that was a good one. So Fearful Sacrifice.
Yep.
One of the
Let's talk about it.
Biggest, heaviest games I own. One of the most gloriously beautiful, attractive games, and a chaotic. I had whiskeys with Herm in Nashville. Must have been 4 months ago now.
Yeah.
And we talked about his games, quite a bit, and what's going on. Did a little live stream. He's got a knack for capturing that historical narrative without railroading you into at 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. you have to do this, and that general's got to go here or issue this order. I love the way that system has come together. I'm very confused about what's going on with Herman and this sort of blind swords set of rules and
Games,
multiple systems. It's all, I'm sticking with the whatever the most fearful sacrifice system is called.
I think they're all similar.
Right. Yeah.
There are so many things I love about Herm as a designer. One of the things is the owner of Flying Pig, I will only work with designers that not only give me a finished product, but are willing to make sure that good finished product makes it to the printer, that helps me check for errors, that does all that. That's Shane Logan, Old School Tactical. That's the exact way Shane Logan is.
Right.
Greg, who oddly enough, I live in the middle of nowhere, but as a crow flies, Greg lives about 2 miles from me, and he lives even more in the middle of nowhere in a castle tower. And it's the same thing. That's why I love working with those three designers. But with Greg's games, I think they all share a general lineage of he does a lot of research, but he incorporates all the crazy things that happens. That was often one of my problems with ASL, a game that although I pick at, I think it's a great game, is that it went, war is chaos, honestly.
Sure.
And it didn't include enough of the chaos. And one of the things that I think that Herm's games does, especially with this card-based system that he has, or the activations of the different formations and the events that'll come up, I think that introduction of chaos makes his games go over the top. The interesting thing about A Fearsome Sacrifice is, and I may have even said this to you because I've said it to everybody, that was like almost a perfect storm, but it was planned. When I went to Herm about that, we've been friends for a couple of years, and he had done The Devils to Pay, which did well for Tiny Battle. And we were talking about let's do the second day, but then right then Mark Herman was doing the second day, and we said, well, let's not, keep doing that. Right. I said, let's make it a Flying Pig game, and let's try to make it the seminal game of Gettysburg. Let's make it huge, and let's make it a statement. And production-wise, I was able to do that. Design-wise, Herm was able to make a fantastic game.
Right.
And it's really turned out that a lot of people really, really enjoy it.
Right. And one of the things that I've liked about it is, I've picked up quite a few of Herm's other games, and I've now started to, all the ones that are tied into or themed on part of Gettysburg, I've now sold off because all those scenarios are basically included in that game anyway. It's a massive list of scenarios, so it's fantastic from that perspective as well. So and then you obviously with the awards there, I think well earned and well deserved, and you guys just knocked it out of the park. Had to do a second edition. Is there anything else planned?
Yep. Yeah, well, of course, Rocket Chickamauga will be the exact same system.
Right.
And that will go on Kickstarter in December. That's
nice.
The plan.
Okay.
Kind of to take a step back, maybe a step sideways, the two big plans, actually three big things that are going to happen for Flying Pig this year will be 85, which is literally work hours away from going to the printer. So probably be shipping in November, God willing. And of course, it's a solitaire module, Alone in the Mountains. As soon as I have that off to the printer, I'm going to finish up the Kickstarter page for Old School Tactical Volume 4, which is the Mediterranean by Shane. And that's going to be so much fun. and its expansion is for the Empire, which brings the Canadians and New Zealanders in it, which anybody that knows Shane knows he's from Canada, as is my mother, by the way. It's those two will go up on Kickstarter simultaneously. That will happen, God willing, September. And then in December, we will have the Rock of Chickamauga. So
you've got a lot coming out later this year, then, just from Flying Pig.
Well,
going to Kickstarter, right?
Those two are rock solid. The two that we will also be doing in between and betwixt in between, and I'm not sure if these will be Kickstarters or these will be pre-orders, or I'll just have the damn things printed and people can start ordering them, are Pipes Creek. Have you ever heard of Pipes Creek? Because I haven't.
No,
Good. I haven't either. You can take everything I know about the Civil War, put it on a postage stamp, and still have room for the Marine Corps' brain. So
wow. Yes.
Yeah, right. So Pipes Creek was the fallback position that Meade was considering if he had retreated from the town of Gettysburg. And we're doing an expansion to A Most Fearful Sacrifice titled Pipes Creek. And that expansion is supposed to be finished by August. Interestingly enough, the map will actually be by Rick Barber. He had done the map previously to Passing. The map for Rock of Chickamauga will be done by Jose, and it looks fantastic. But
right.
Pipes Creek will be Rick Barber. That whether or not we slip that into Kickstarter or do a pre-order, we'll see. I don't like getting too far ahead of myself on the Kickstarters. Yeah. I'd like to, so once I get 85 to the printer, there's nothing else I can do with 85. Then it's up to the printer. So I'm good to go with Old School Tactical Volume 4. We'll have to see how Pipes Creek fits into that. The other game that we are going to fit in one way or another is titled Schism. And it is the expansion to the Long Road.
I just played the Long Road yesterday, actually. So
I hope you enjoyed it.
Dude, I wrote that little narrative, and
which was fantastic.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. It's just so rich, right? And I'm really trying to. I would love to be able to write, right? If I could write well, that would be like a gift.
You can write. I've read your stuff, and I think I think you're a good writer. And all it takes, it's like I wish I could hit a fastball. Well, if you stand up and you go take 5,000 fastballs, lo and behold, you can.
You'll hit one eventually. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I need to do more.
Yep. So but Schism is going to embrace the whole Long Road. This is going to sound odd, but the history of the Long Road, and I'll try to do it in 30 seconds or less. I actually was working with someone who had a doctorate in history from that period and was a game designer. And the Long Road was going to be one of those, okay, this is the brand of underwear they wore, and this is what they used to pick their noses with. And I was sitting out on my patio having a cigar and a beer, and I went, bullshit. I'm not going to do that. Other people are doing that, and more power to them. There are some great games that come out like that, but I'm not going to do it. Right. Ever since I saw the movie Underworld, I have just been captured by the idea of paranormal entities living in a realistic world. Right. Not glistening, not immune to anything. If you shoot a vampire in the face with a 9mm, they just can't regenerate from that. They die. So I said, I'm going to do the long road. And, I've got a lot of, and still get a lot of the zombie thing. And people, I think sometimes, I don't think they truly understand unless they have the game. It's not like you have and this, so I guess I'm just telling it to your audience. It's not like you have a battalion of tanks that's fighting 4 vampires or something like that. The vampires in a long road are part of a coven that's been around for 400 years. And over those 400 years, they've collected a lot of money and a lot of power. And because of that money, they've been able to research and produce some of the most advanced weaponry of that day and time. So when you're fighting the vampires, you're fighting tanks. They're really more like armored cars because they're lightly armored, but they have Gauss rifles. So they have a penetration capability even better than an Abrams. Or they also have drones because they're the first faction to be able to use combat drones in these type of things. Yes, there are also counters that represent vampires that will close assault you, and they will gain hits from hits they take from you and that type of stuff. By the same token, the Lycans have a real history. They're not just savage beasts. Yep. Most of them live in collectives. They farm and whatnot. All these entities were trying to stay under the radar. Well, the Lycans are ultra patriots. So they're pissed off at the U.S. and the Soviets because they just care about a Germany for Germans. So they're almost semi-like terrorists. They have technicals, they have guns they've stolen from the U.S. and whatnot. And so when you're in these scenarios, you're fighting these asymmetrical battles. But of course, the vampires also, the Lycans also have these packs of elders who can change at will, and 3 of them are equal to about 2 platoons of regular soldiers. So you have that. And to me, that was the excitement of it. But everyone would keep saying in all the reviews, yeah, it's a good game. But if you want, you can just fight the Americans against the Soviets.
Right.
Well, Schism does away with that crap.
Right. Schism, now, you're in, right? If
you're in,
you're in. Right.
And Schism, you are in. That's where the name comes from. It's a schism. It's a break from wargaming. It's a break from reality. And what it's about is the British 7th Armored launch a counterattack into the Soviet lines. And what they end up fighting is this regiment that the Soviets have been building since late 1948 called Regiment X. And Regiment X is made of 2 battalions. And the 2 battalions, one of them is pretty normal, but it has some of the more advanced weaponry like the Black Eagle and stuff like that Jeff Newell always loved to eschew with World at War.
Yes.
God love him. And
God bless that boy.
God bless him. But one of the battalions is like that. The other battalion is totally made up of the weird and the wicked and the evil. And they have on the weird side of thing, they have something called a T-72Z. And the T-72Z, somehow they fitted a 135 millimeter gun in it. So it's very powerful. But if you happen to roll that would normally make you go out of ammo for a ATGM, people that have played the game know, it actually does a hit on the tank. It still does whatever that does, but it's the gun is blown up because it's just too big a gun for being in the.
I love it. Okay, cool.
They have something called the Reborn, and the Reborn are not zombies. The Reborn are animated dead soldiers, so they have almost an infinite supply of them who can think, who can shoot rifles and stuff, but they're not quite as good at it as normal soldiers. But the thing is if you kill them, they turn into raging spirits, and raging spirits will immediately move towards the closest enemy unit, and if they enter their hex, they shake them and then they go away. The idea being they petrify that enemy. They go, oh my God. So they just shake them. So you may have two go into hex, and you get multiple shaken things, shaken counters. Also, you have the Soviets, since they've been working on this since 1948, have managed to open a portal to the other world. And they have these champions from Slavic history that come in and fight for them. And people that they have, let's say, manufacturers in a lab. Like they have Experiment 19. He's a champion. But if Experiment 19 is next to a ZSU 34, that's it, right? Is it 34? ZSU? Yeah, anyhow, they're 4-barreled 20 millimeter anti-tank.
Yeah.
They can nullify they can nullify an artillery strike because they use their psychic power to enable the ZSU to actually shoot down artillery shells that are coming in. They have another hero that if they kill a Soviet unit and drain its power. Now, understand this, they're fighting on the Soviet side, but if they kill a Soviet unit, they can open a portal to the netherworld within 3 hexes, and all units that are in that hex are just transported away. Sucked out. So it's a no shit. If you don't want to fight paranormal, if you don't want to go crazy, the British have Challengers. The British have the FV-432s. They have Scorpions, Scimitars,
right.
all that kind of stuff. And they eventually get a little bit of paranormal stuff. Like they have a thing called, what's it called? Hold on, wait. Let me look at this spreadsheet. Oh, I closed the spreadsheet. An ethereal cannon. And it's
a what cannon?
An ethereal, not ethereal, ethereal cannon mounted on the back of a flatbed truck. And it's the only thing that can actually shoot these raging spirits. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, because stuff like, kinetic weapons, they're these ghosts. They don't care. They go right through them. And there's this whole list of champions that fight with them. They also have a special tank they've developed that shoots an ethereal ball of energy. So if it hits the enemy, let's say it hits the enemy armor, it fries all the electronics. So you have a mission kill. Then it bounces off and hits the next closest enemy. So it actually
interesting. Yeah, cool. Cool.
So
cool.
That's
hang on one sec. I'm going to let a cat out because it keeps crying.
Yep.
And I'm going to grab my beer while I'm doing that.
Okay.
Oh, shh, kitty. I know. Go on.
It sounds like my house.
Oh gosh. But now we have beer and we're in business. All right. This tiny little place we're living in, the good news is that everything's close, including the animals. I'm drinking, which is probably appropriate. We're a Galactic Cowboy.
Oh, nice.
The Nitro Imperial Stout. Yeah. So cool. Well, so that sounds fascinating. And it's interesting. I've been reading some military sci-fi stuff, and I've been reading by an author called a different type of series called it's called Forgotten Ruins, and it's about a Ranger battalion. Well, not a battalion, I guess, maybe 2 companies or something like that. They get they're trying to go forward 5 years or something into the future to save America from this parasitic or reestablish America, because the world's dying from this virus that's been released. It's kind of COVID, right? But anyway, and it's all this bacterial nonsense that breaks down technology. And anyway, ends up they don't go forward 5 years or 10 years or however many years they're supposed to go forward. They go forward 10,000 years.
Yeah.
But the world is now orcs, elves, magic, and all sorts of trolls and goblins and weird crazy shit. And these guys have got the ammo they have with them, and this thing called the Forge, that it's kind of like a 3D printer, but it's super sophisticated and it lets them make ammo and batteries and whatever nonsense they want to make. But it's really, really fascinating to see that it's kind of like your series, where you've got soldiers fighting paranormal, right? And this is soldiers fighting basically Dungeons and Dragons, and it's just awesome to see like the hardcore tactics being used against waves of orcs coming at them, and it's awesome. So anyway,
that sounds great. You would probably like an author called John Birmingham. Let me make sure. But anyhow, he did a series of books called Birmingham. Did 2 series of books that are pretty interesting. I'm looking at the book, but what is well, it's called, one was called the Axis of Time trilogy.
Okay. I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, and in that one, some modern units get sent back into the past, only to World War II. So it's pretty interesting. He did another one, Without Warning, I think is what it's called. And in Without Warning, this event happens that takes a diagonal swath through the globe, and anyone in that swath dies. So
wow.
Things are changed immeasurably, and that's great. And then he did another one. I'll email you it, but where these orcs and dragons and stuff that have lived below the surface forever, a crack comes in the surface and they come up. So like you have these, you have, like you said, this horde of orcs, and there's this one dude that happens to be an oil rig worker that happens to stumble upon this sword of power. And so he's like a champion fighting these guys. And otherwise it's regular military. Like these dragons just are like knocking the crap out of airliners when they first come up. But, and this is what I like, when you send an F-A-18 against them, the F-A-18 can kick the shit out of the dragon. And that's cool. The stuff I always like with Independence Day, one of my favorite movies. What always bothers me about those kind of movies is aliens come in, you can do nothing about it. Then you solve it and you win.
Right.
I always feel like if they're here on Earth, they have to obey our laws of physics. So if the aliens come in, they may have sophisticated weapons, but they still, a frag grenade still is a frag grenade, and it's going to tear you up.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Yeah. So when I was playing yesterday, playing Long Road yesterday, I had Katrina and Hudson and Tiny, and there were the Lycans and Hood as well, and then was the Lycans, and I can't remember the name of the champion.
Tatiani, was it?
It starts with a G.
Gunari Hunter.
Gunari, right? So Gunna or whatever, right? And so anyway, I finally worked out how to take that son of a bitch out. So it just took some careful stacking, and hopefully I used all the modifiers correctly. But it became an epic little firefight, and then a close assault. It was awesome. So it was good times. Good times were had by all. Yeah, it was fun. But so coming back to OST for a second. So I saw that there was for the Empire sort of expansion, but what's the name of did I miss the Med? Did you already do the Med game Kickstarter? No,
okay. they'll both be on Kickstarter at the same time.
Okay, because I thought I missed it. I was going to be all upset. So what's going to be in the Sicily Med one? That's going to have Brits and Americans, obviously against Germans and Italians, right?
Well, that's a good question. I would have to look at a counter sheet, but it focuses on Sicily and Italy, and mainly focuses on the United Kingdom forces.
Okay.
There may be some American scenarios. I honestly can't answer that. I don't know.
Okay. Because my favorite.
Too bad Shane in here. He could tell us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe I need to get him on sometime. But my favorite. There's quite a few Texas generals that I'm a fan of, but General Truscott, I think, was the general of the 3rd Division that landed in Sicily and then fought in Sicily and then fought in Italy as well.
Okay.
But, anyway, so anyway, they obviously because there were two arms that went around Sicily. One went, Patton went round and did the hook through Palermo or whatever it's called, and then what's his face went through Syracuse. Monty went through Syracuse and wherever up the coastline. So anyway, cool.
Hood was another famous one, and that's his
Yes.
picture, of course, on Fearful Sacrifice. I get some pushback with that being promoting a lost cause, but not too much.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good.
People
Well,
can say what they want to say.
Yeah, that's exactly. And here's the cool thing: you're in a position now where you can make the games you want to make, and you play them and you love them, and there are enough people who like your work. One of the great things about you is not just that you build what I think are good, solid, fun games, but your scenario designs 9 times out of 10 are some of the best and tightest scenarios. And I don't think that's appreciated enough by wargamers in general, I would say, because it's hard to build great scenarios. I can name a lot of designers who suck at, they might make a great game system, but when it comes to actually the scenarios that go in it, sometimes they just go, well, here's the order of battle, have at it, right? And that doesn't always work, because sometimes you need to adjust the victory conditions, or you need to make it interesting for one side or the other, or balance the scenarios. So has anyone ever really, are they really doing what I would call, and you may just be so good at it now that you just do it, but you're like the scenario I played yesterday, it went down to it was 6 or 7 turns, I forget. It went down to the 6th turn, because you got Soviets, you got the Yanks, and Hudson and Katrina, and you've got the Lycans, and they're all working. And once I worked out, I kind of messed up the victory conditions, but once I worked out that it was the little villages that were important, then scenario 7, it was awesome. Super fine balance, so it was cool. So that's
I love doing that. I love doing it. No, honest to goodness, I mean, you do get better as you design more and more and more scenarios. But I love doing it because it's almost like writing fiction.
Right.
That's what I like. I love the thing, some people play war games or any games for the competition and to be better. I'll never forget this guy. When I first took Lock and Load Forgotten Heroes to Origins, when Shrapnel was selling it, this guy said, "Hey, will you play me a game, after the vendor booth closed?" And I go, "Okay, sure." And we played a game, and he beat me. And he literally stood up and was like pumped. And I was going, "Okay, good for you, dude." But for me, what it's about is the immersion.
Right.
The immersion and the camaraderie, to be honest. I mean, being with people and, remember that time at Jeff Newell's, it's odd we bring him up twice, but at Jeff Newell's con that he has up there in the Northwest, remember that time he did that thing where he made that special scenario where each one of us was a hero?
Yep, I had a hero counter. Yeah,
we were all fairly drunk before we even started it. But
well, that's because there were shots involved. There were shots involved when you died, like not shots as in shooting, but shots of alcohol. Were you there for that one?
Yeah,
that got ugly.
That was the same time, and I'm not putting down. It sounds that we played. Not MBT, but what's the World War II version of
Panzer.
MBT?
Yeah.
Panzer. And we literally played 40 minutes before the first shot was resolved. And I was going, I don't know.
Yeah, that was a shit show, wasn't it? Yeah. Well,
but it's a good game. We just didn't know it. We just didn't know
Yes. And if you don't know that game, like I've played that game 30, 40 times now. It's a great game. I love Panzer. I love MBT, particularly MBT, the modern one. I'm all over that like white on rice. The thing with that lock and load heroes thing, and I mean, you could do that with it'd be fun with the long road, right? To have
It
like
would. That would be.
a
That's a
little
good
fun
idea.
hero scenario. So you could be Hood or Ganari or Guna or whatever his name is, or
Yeah.
Katrina, and just have little weapons. We had those little weapons cases lying around where you
Yep.
would roll a die and you would get a ATGM, or you'd get a not an ATGM. You get an RPG, or you get a saw or whatever. Everyone's blasting everybody. That was, last man standing. That was awesome fun. Yeah, good times.
It was truly a lot of fun. And I had the original MBT, and that and Panzer Leader. I still have the original game, and both of them literally. I wish I could show you the counters, how worn they are from me playing it. Did I think it was for strategy and tactics. I mean, this was like late 80s. I wrote a conversion for MBT so you could play it on squad leader boards. Oh, so rather than those 250 meter hexes, you took it down to 50 meter hexes, and you had squads into buildings and stuff like that. I still have the Word document. I just don't know the legality of publishing it. GMT probably wouldn't give a damn.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah. It's so, and really you're talking about the old version, which is another publisher anyway. So, but that'd be fun to, maybe you should slide that my way. Let me have a look at it. At least for private use. I'd be very curious about that. Now there is we actually have a serious question from the audience. Ben is curious about, how about an OST points-based scenario builder system? Well, first of all, no one can build scenarios like you, but if you wanted to build your own, is that something you guys could do?
Let me correct that by saying Shane's done 95% of those scenarios, and they're great scenarios. Right. So Shane deserves the credit for that.
Yeah.
And he has mentioned to me that he's working on that system, a points builder system. So
that's cool.
Sometime, if I was to go into next year, I tried just to give you the stuff that isn't pie in the sky. This is hardcore. But if I was to go into next year, the two games that I see being published, one of them I've been testing with Greg, and the other I see, Shane would love to publish it right now, is with Greg, we've been testing Rising Dragon, which is the sequel to Armageddon War, and it's a war in Taiwan. Okay. And then the one with Shane, of course, is he's all over that modern OST. He really wants to do that. And I do too. It's just I wanted to get this old school tactical volume 4 out of the way. So I don't know if I haven't asked him specifically, hey, are you thinking of including the points builder with the modern game or what? So I think it might happen.
Okay, that's interesting. So Armageddon War is a game that I have had for a while, and I got I caught it at a moment when I got pissy about some stuff that was I couldn't find, or whatever was missing in the scenario instructions were wrong or whatever, and I got all huffy and backed it up because sometimes I get
we all do. Yeah,
I get on my period, but. I was talking to a guy a couple of days ago, and he was raving about how much fun Armageddon War is, and it seems to me that game just doesn't get the airplay awareness. What do you think that's about, and why? I don't know if it sold well or not. I know.
Oh, it sold real well.
Did it really?
I mean, we sold out of it.
So is it sold out?
I don't know. A year and a half ago.
Really?
Something like that. Yeah, it sold really well. I think the Player's Aid said it was game of the year. I don't know, something like that. Okay. It is a fun game. Interestingly enough, Greg and I were playing this game, which won't show up.
Move it to the there we go. Oh, Oz Victor, right? Yeah. Yeah, I've played that game. Yep.
Have you heard of it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
he
played it.
loved the idea of the dice in it and how the dice made different things, and that had a significant nice spiderweb. That had a significant impact on Armageddon War, actually.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I love putting the I love the way the count I can put the damage counter underneath, and so
Yeah.
and I've got all the little mods and stuff right there. I loved all that about it. But I had a couple people saying how much they loved it and were disappointed that there was not more. I know you had one expansion
I
that
can
came
only do
with,
so
but
much.
come on, bud. Come on. You get long in the tooth. We need to get everything that's in that brain of yours out before you cock it, right?
Well, it's Greg's brain. It's just that we kind of work on both these things. I mean, we work on Greg is a big part of Long Road. Greg's a
Sure.
big part of all this stuff. I mean, we meet every Wednesday and we test stuff, but it's primarily Greg's brain that has to that does Armageddon War. The problem with getting it out, of course, is just finding a Kickstarter slot. I mean, I could run a
Right.
Kickstarter every other week, but at some point, people are going to say, "Well, that's great, Mark, but when are you going to ship that game that you ran a Kickstarter for 4 weeks ago?"
Yeah. Would you ever consider using, and not that it matters which one you use, but Game Found? Like, are the fees better with them, or they seem to be a little bit more flexible than Kickstarter? From what
I
I've heard.
haven't. I'm aware of Game Found and a pledge for games on Game Found, but yeah, I mean, the short answer to your question, but yeah, we consider it. It's not that Kickstarter wouldn't let me do it. It's that I just don't want to get into that thing of having too many games that I have the
Right.
money for,
Yeah.
but I haven't delivered. To
Right.
me, that's
Yeah.
almost like being in debt. If I've collected $6, I'm saying fictitiously, for games that I haven't delivered, to me that's more of a debt than an asset. So I don't like being like that.
Yeah, I feel the same way when people send me a free game on the occasions that that happens. And I know someone sent me a game that I still have here, and it's really out of my wheelhouse. It's kind of like
promote it now.
I can't remember the name of it. Something midnight, 3 minutes to midnight, or 2 minutes to midnight, or whatever. It's a beautiful game. It looks interesting. It's this big political strategy kind of war game type of thing. But I feel guilty, A, that I haven't played it, and B, that I haven't really given it any airtime. I did an unboxing or whatever, but I also have tried to line up to play with somebody online, and that just hasn't worked out.
Yeah,
and now I'm seeing the rules are there's a lot of revision going on. So part of me is thinking maybe it's okay that I haven't actually got to that particular one yet. So yeah, it's hard. But that reminds me. So you guys sent me a playtest version of Crowbar, and that I couldn't get over how much fun that was for a solitaire game, right? That whole push a luck concept. Are you thinking about doing any? And I know that was another Herman game, right?
Yeah.
And it was almost too big, right? The map was almost, for a solitaire game, was almost too much. Like it was grand. Right. It was a grand exposition of a solitaire game. But
the Grand Endeavor. Isn't that an MMP title for D-Day?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, a little SCS title. Yeah,
I love MMP. Love them.
Yeah, they do some good shit.
They absolutely do. I'm not kidding. It's interesting that people say, "What kind of music do you like?" Mm-hmm. Don't you hate people that say, "I don't know, I kind of like it all"? Because you go, bullshit. You can't like it all. Come on.
Right.
But with games, so much it's that way. I play a lot of, the war game I was like talking about at the beginning, the miniatures game and stuff. I play a lot of that kind of stuff and enjoy it. But I still thoroughly enjoy good war games. Right now, for relaxation, I've been I have set up on the table over here D-Day at Tarawa. And
Oh, okay. That's a tough
John
game.
Butterfield, man, he writes rules
Yeah.
like Chopin does piano, I guess. I have
Yeah.
no idea. Chopin may do violin, beats me.
Yeah.
Uh,
He does some symphony stuff. Yeah, but whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. But I mean, Butterfield, I won't even hint at a name or a game, but I had just tried to work through a recently released game in our industry
Hmm.
that was hugely popular,
Hmm.
that was so bad. I actually call up Herm. I talk with Herm too much. We talk to each other so much. My wife calls him my boyfriend. But I said, Herm, this game is it's unplayable, and it. So enough on that. The point
Yeah. So
is
we'll talk
that
we'll talk offline once we finish about which game
yeah,
that is, because I think I know what
um,
one you're talking about.
I had just looked at that, and then I hadn't played this Tarwa game, which I'd obviously had a couple of years. It's 2017. I'm going,
Hmm.
such a delight. Such a
Hmm.
delight. I mean, the way Butterfield writes rules, these D-Day at games are not easy. They're not
No.
hard, but they're not
No.
easy.
No.
But man, he does a great job writing the rules.
Yeah. Well, so coming back to D-Day, I'm Crowbar. Like, so I
Oh,
enjoyed that.
sorry. Yeah.
No, you're good. You're good.
I
You
should
went okay.
spend more time talking about my own stuff. I mean,
Yeah, I
the
just,
company's
I'm just
own stuff.
saying. I'm just saying. I'm here to talk about your shit, right? So let's talk about your shit. So, I've just thought of something else I want to ask you about. So, are you planning to do or considering doing any more solo style games of a similar nature to Crowbar?
Well, as a matter of fact, for Tiny Battle, um, I'll briefly go Tiny Battle. Like the
Hmm.
lock on stuff that's happening is uh, uh, Conquering the Valley will will ship next week. All the pre-orders will ship next week. Then coming up right after that is Rifles in the Nam, which
Hmm.
Gotardo's series of Gotardo's and Canny, brilliant designer, series of games, and obviously no other explanations needed. It's
Yep.
Vietnam, the
Yep.
rifles thing. Um, and coming up right after that is Volters Lead the Way. And Volters Lead the Way was a White Dog game. They
Right.
gave it back to Herm. We're redoing the box art and stuff like that, and Tiny Battle is going to publish it.
Oh,
And
nice.
I am totally taken with this game, and it's uses the In Magnificent style Crowbar game engine, but it's science fiction.
Interesting. Yeah. So I read about that and I was curious because I had loved his earlier renditions of sci-fi games that he had done. So they were,
Invaders from Dimension X,
yeah, it's
uh,
great stuff. Just great
the
stuff.
uh, Colossi,
Colossi,
uh,
right?
and there's one in between those two that I can't remember, but it's that same basic universe. And I can tell you, I was reading the rules to it yesterday, and I'm going, "Damn, this game looks fun." Honest God, I
Yeah.
don't care if anybody listening buys it. I was
Right.
just saying, man, it looks like a lot of fun.
Right.
It has big 1-inch counters, and
Nice.
it'll be a new thing for Tiny Battle in that we will use the laser cut counters for this particular game. And yeah, I think that'll be exciting.
All right.
So the answer to your question is yes.
Okay. Good. Good answer. Good. I love it. Now,
Yeah.
that brings me to the cross fingers here. So you published a game, and it was, the production quality was Tiny Battles, and it was the early Tiny Battles.
Yeah.
Tango Down.
Yeah, I know you like that game. I did too.
I
Because I
love
mean,
that
I
game.
personally tested
Sure.
every scenario.
Sure.
You know, I'm watching Seals right now. Have you watched that on Paramount Plus?
Dude, I don't really watch TV. The only time I watch any TV is when my wife says, she doesn't say it like this, but basically she says, "You're ignoring me. Will you watch a TV show with me?" So no, I have not. I don't have Paramount Plus. I don't have Disney Plus. I don't have HBO. I have Netflix and Prime. And if it ain't on those two things, it ain't getting watched. So no, I have not seen Seals.
So, I mean, believe it, like 6 seasons, 22 episodes per season, and the realism is better than most action movies. But the point of this is I sit there watching and go, damn, we could do so many good Tango Down scenarios. And I've mentioned it to Greg. I wouldn't say it wouldn't happen, but Greg's thing is always, oh no, I think Tango Down has to be inside of a building. I go, no, it doesn't. You can do it outside.
Yeah.
I like Tango Down.
Yeah, give me more maps. I want better artwork on the maps. I want larger maps. Right. I want and I want some nice some good thick counters. I want to throw those nades and pop smoke and Overwatch and covering fire, and that stuff is so much fun. It's super thematic because you're like basically a SWAT. You're a SWAT team and going in and doing stuff. It's awesome. Yeah. Right.
No, I liked it too.
You could even do a whole SWAT version, have a hostage taker, hostage rescue or whatever, and just do SWAT teams. That'd be super fun too. I mean, let alone all the Navy SEAL stuff and Delta Force and all those kind of sneaking in and doing bits and pieces out in the field or taking out bad guys, and so much fun. Great game.
I'm glad you liked it. And the maps could be better. Thomas, the intern, did the maps. And I thought they were pretty good.
They weren't bad. I just, you're
right. Exactly. They weren't bad. I would say they're pretty good. Yeah. But it's not like a Mark Von Marshall map like you would see with you'll see with 85 or or Shane's maps, or Shane did all the artwork. I don't know if anybody knows this. Shane did all the artwork for Armageddon War too.
Oh, did you really? Very cool.
Yeah, those are Shane's maps also. So yeah, I mean, no, absolutely, you nailed it. They're pretty good, but they could be better. So
let's go, man. I'm pre-order 1. Let's do it.
We will. I'll tell you something. I'll tell you the last thing that I want to tell you that's coming up. And we'll talk about the companies here for 15 seconds. We just signed a deal that we're going to have a PC version of Sticks and Stones, and it will be released in March of 2024.
Nice. Okay, that's cool.
I think so too. I'm so excited about it. I can't wait for the first alpha that I can actually play.
Right.
So,
well, that's fun. So you guys have a lot going on between the two companies and the magazine, and it's awesome. We haven't even talked about the magazine, but I mean, what edition are you up to now? Like 14, 15?
But the whole thing. The thing with the magazine is I initially had an editor for it. Amabel Holland.
Yep.
And when I lost Amabel, I had another editor that was just kind of busy most of the time. And then I said, I'll do it. And you know what? I'm 69 and I just don't have the freaking time. So does that mean, you won't see another yacht? No, it doesn't mean that at all. But it means just that it's
less frequent.
Yeah, it's tough to find the time to get one in.
Yeah. Well, there's no joy in the being the editor of a magazine. I've realized it's a lot of work.
God, no. Worst part about war game publishing, I mean, is proofing rules and stuff like that. I mean, for me, it's not. I mean, there are many people that are very, very good at it. For me, I can do 20 minutes. I have to stand up, walk around for 10, sit back down, do 20. Right. I'm probably attention deficit. I don't know. Probably.
Right. Do you ever enlist the greater community to look at things like that and offer them a discount or a free game or whatever, or a pat in the head, whatever it is?
I do, and sometimes it's very helpful. Sometimes It's like listening to a field of crickets chirp. So
yeah. You know, well,
and I don't blame anybody. I'm just saying that sometimes it's not that helpful.
Oh yeah, guilty as charged. I was asked to participate in two different play tests, and one of them I was super excited, and I played the game with the designer, and we played with the developer actually, and enjoyed it immensely. I was like, oh, I want to get home and get on Vassal and play this again. I got it set up. I got maybe part of the way through one turn. It's more of a complex game, and I was like, yeah. This is bullshit. I'm not doing this. I'm doing it on Vassal and logging everything and writing notes, and it's hard, right? Now give me a rule book. I'll go look through it. Like I ripped there was a European guy that approached me who I've helped out in the past, and I'll go through a rule book, but give it a pass and then make comments and kind of go for it from there. I'll do that once or twice. I did that also with a Compass game that's coming out, and I kind of said, hey, this is not good. You need to think about approaching the game rule writing from this perspective, i.e. from a game flow perspective. And that was really all I offered to do, was to read the rules. But I've stayed involved, but I haven't played it or whatever. But I've now seen the new rules, and they're much, 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 much better. And I think it'll be a great game. But it's interesting how folks can easily get off track if they don't want to listen or won't take board, number one. And number two, the worst thing is that you either get too much advice or you get none, I guess, as a designer, right? That's the problem.
Well, what happens is two things about that. Thing one is that I could put out a rule set and say, hey, y'all make comments,
right,
and get nothing.
Right.
I release the rules and people cannot wait. The game is published. They can't wait to be the first people on Board Game Geek to point out some error or whatnot like that.
Yeah.
Folks are folks. It's okay. I get it.
Yeah.
And the second thing about that is, my daggone stack of shame is shameful. It's just insane. And I continue to buy games. Right. And I think I'm buying the thought of playing the game as much as buying the game. Right. And so I think a lot of very well-meaning people say, oh, yeah, I'll help. And they really mean it.
Yes.
And then something else comes up and a new game gets bought and it gets pushed down the stack, and they just don't have time for it. And I don't blame them at all.
Sure. Yeah. I remember one time I was trying to help with a TCS game from MMP, the Tactical Combat System. So super detailed.
You love that. I mean, you used to post about it all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and I still play, but and I've got. I don't have the space at the moment where I live. Like right behind this screen, I have a 24 by 34 size piece of cork that I can put one map on, and that's it. That's all I can really do at the moment. So anyway, so I was trying to play test, and by the time I get the rules, and I like to read them in my hands, I'm old school like that. So I print them out. I read just the custom module rules, which are 4 or 5 pages, right? So it's not a big deal. By the time I print them out, get to it, sit down, take a break, read them, offer some comments. 3 days later, there's a new version, and you're like, okay, I've got to go back, start again. And, it just took, I never actually got to pass and play one turn. Finally, I just said, you know what? I think you guys are good. You guys are, you're on this. It'll be fine. You don't need me.
Right.
So, yeah, it's tough.
I find that I can't concentrate on a book of rules like I used to be able to, or I think I used to be able to. Maybe, I have another blogger friend, and he talks about reading through the rules, doing a first read through in 45 minutes, right? And I believe the guy. He's a stand-up guy, freak. There's no way I can read through rules in 45 minutes. I mean, I do 10 minutes, and I got to get up and let the dog in, or I
So
can't do it.
I got this game here, and it doesn't matter what the game is. It's a small company out of Canada, but it's called Sisu. It's about there's two battles in 1942, 1944 in Finland, and it's 26 pages, including the scenarios in here. Yeah, including the scenarios, right? So
Right.
I have read this. I have started to read this several times, and it's a somewhat different, unique. I wouldn't call it unique, but different approach to things. I think I'm on page 13, and I'm either fall asleep or I go, you know what, I should go have a snack. And I'm finding and I think I used to be able to consume systems. I was doing 30 or 40 new to me game systems a year. 8 years ago, right? Now this year I'll probably do 15 or maybe 20 because just life circumstances, but I think mentally as we get older, it takes more effort to do the consumption and the distillation. Well, there's a lot of stuff we can kind of assume, we go, oh, okay, zones of control, movement, combat. Okay, got it, skip. And then you check before you go and actually roll the dice. Like with the long road, that's what I did with you. I set that game up. I played it. Last time I played it was with you online.
Okay.
And I just set that sucker up and followed the sequence of play and just went through and went, okay, let me just check this, right? And then, okay, yes, I remember correctly. Nice. That's nice for a change. But new games, it's like, oh, okay, I got to do some work here. It's hard sometimes.
I think it is, and part of the thing to it is I believe it is a little harder, but at the same time, it's more important that we continue to do that stuff.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah,
because that's what that's what keeps our brains working. I've found that I'll read through an entire rule set up the game, and go to sequence of play, step one, and then have to look it back up in the rules. There are times I go, why do I even read the rules?
Right.
Set up the game, go to the sequence of play, and go that way.
Yeah. I know guys that do that, and they have a great time. It's only when you get those wonderfully intricate games where it's this is how you move, but then when you want to fight, you need to have thought about this before you did that, and so there's that those interwoven mechanics, I guess, is the tricky bit. So like the Italian guy, Thin Red Line Games, the Under the Iron Sky, and
I really want to play one of those games. Yeah,
it's pretty cool. It's a little involved, but it's that's a system that you literally have to play with a small section of the map and work through it to realize how things are interconnected before you would ever want to waste your time trying to set up the whole damn campaign and then go, I screwed that up. We need to start again 4 days later. So anyway,
sometimes systems like that have a beauty of their own, though.
Yes.
I really think they do. I mean, there is a weird graph that I'm sure I could draw that would show two lines, and one would be complexity and the other would be immersion.
Mm-hmm.
And this has to do with whether it is a war game or specifically Ameritrash, because some of them can get fairly complex. And the two lines parallel for a while. I think in general, the more complex the game, if it's a good game, the more immersive it can be.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, they diverge where it's diminishing returns. The additional complexity really doesn't add to the immersion.
Well, and that complexity, it also depends what that complexity is, because sometimes it's just mechanical things you need to do. So if I've got to take, and I won't say the game system name because the guy thinks I hate him, but I don't. I'm just not happy with the system. But there's a system that says, well, if it's 1940, this is the face value of the counter is the value. But if it's 1941, you need to multiply that by 1.5. Okay, good, got that. Great, good, right? That's good, 1.5. Now, if you've got armor and you're fighting against guys that don't have any AT guns, well, you can multiply your factor again by a certain number. But if there's AT guns, well, now you take 1/5 of something, and next thing you know, you're doing 6 or 7 fractional math calculations for a combat, and you've got 4,000 counters on the map, and you're doing 100 of those, and that's mechanically complex because it's a weight on you that you're like, oh Jesus, I've got to do this again. You've got to be shitting me. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call that 11, and that's 4. Let's call that round up 3-1, or round down 2-1, and you just kind of roll the dice and let's get the answer.
And the designer should have done that for you.
Right, because I don't want to do a lot of math. I'm okay doing some math, and I'm okay doing it many, many, many times. I'll do it with OCS out the yin yang, because in the end, if I make a mistake with their combat results table, because it's such a broad spread, both left and right on columns and up and down, I think it's 16 or 17 results down, and there's 10 or 12 columns. It all kind of comes out of the wash. If I do an attack at 6-1, and it should have been 8-1, and I rolled a 7, it's going to be probably the same result, right? Just within reason.
Mm-hmm.
But with some of these systems, you're like, oh well, that's completely. I'm going to use the word "fuck" that, right? Completely screwed that up.
Sure.
That's a completely different result. Yeah. Well, we went longer. We went nearly an hour and a half.
We did. What time is it? Oh my God, Janice is going to kill me. I told her we'll eat dinner after this. It'll only be a half an hour. Oh my God.
Well, it's your fault. You started talking about the Charlies, and that took half an hour. So I'm blaming you, man. Look, I appreciate you, first of all, hanging out, and it's great to catch up because I've missed you, and I'm super thrilled for all your successes, and I'm excited about what's coming down the pipe. And if everyone is a couple of people I saw a couple just joined in, go back and rewatch, because lots of good news on solitaire games, on additional expansions for the Charlie Award-winning Civil War titles, Most Fearful Sacrifice. Lots of World War II goodness, and we're going to see a big, huge reprint expansion of Tango Down. I'm just kidding, but no pressure. But lots of great stuff coming out. So I'm super happy for you, and I hope things go well.
Thanks. It's been a lot of fun being here. Thanks a lot, Kev.
Cool, man. All right. Well, everyone else, thank you for joining in, guys. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon.